Whenever you travel, you might consider visiting a local petroglyph site. They exist in most places around the world. In 1999, I visited the Gobustan petroglyph site in Azerbaijan. The site covers 3 areas of a plateau of rocky boulders rising out of the semi-desert, with an outstanding collection of more than 6,000 rock engravings, bearing testimony to 40,000 years of humanity. Human figures dancing, antelopes and wild bulls fleeing, long boats with rows of armed rowers, images of sun and stars. Were these and similar prehistoric petroglyphs all around the world made by priests, prophets, professional artists, or just regular people, collectively over thousands of years? At least one engraving here was. Probably, the last carving of note here is actually graffiti, carved out by a Roman soldier passing through in the 1st century AD, who chiseled out the words, "I was here." Collective intelligence was a term introduced by Pierre Levy as shared or group intelligence. It has also been attributed to bacteria, animals, and now machines. But if these systems are intelligent, what about collective wisdom? Is there something deeper, more spiritual, philosophical, a wider search for broader questions of why? Why co-create and why now? From rock engravings to immersive storytelling forms fueled with artificial intelligence, our new co-creation studio at MIT Open Doc Lab shines a flashlight on under-documented collective media practices. For us, media co-creation offers alternatives to a singular authored vision. Today, we'll go on a collective journey through time, space, and technologies to explore the power of co-creation and movement building, equity, and justice. How did we get here? In the next few minutes, I'll share with you my trajectory from my roots at National Film Board of Canada to joining the ODL on invitation of Sarah and William, so that we could together found a co-creation studio. The story begins perhaps in 1967, I wasn't there, but the National Film Board of Canada began a 13-year-long landmark project called the Challenge for Change program that became legendary for activist filmmaking.
We don't want to be a Canadian citizen. We don't want to be American citizens. They told us a long time ago that we were North American Indians. And today we feel this way too.
You Are on Indian Land was made in 1969 and was one of the most influential films made by the Indian film crew at the Challenge for Change program. It was an all-Indigenous team. The entire Challenge for Change collection includes about 145 films and thousands of film fragments because the films themselves were less important than the catalyst for social and political change. The program worked in communities across the country.
Paul Kennedy, welcome to Ideas about how to save an island.
I think a small island is indeed a reasonable proxy for a small planet, so it's not a bad place to learn. And in some ways, I think we have to approach our economic system as one might approach an art project, not presuming to have all the answers.
There was a serious possibility that FOGO would simply cease, that everybody, all the people living there would leave because it was in hopeless state.
Richard Gwynn was in Newfoundland and sometimes on Fogo Island 50 years ago when the National Film Board of Canada, together with Memorial University, saved Fogo Island by inventing something called the Fogo process.
To me, when the process came together, the Fogo process, it became the pinnacle of listening. So to me, one of the characteristics of the Fogo process is what I would call deep listening.
The deep listening of the Fogo process was something that I was deeply inspired by, along with many people in this room. Mandy Rose at the BBC in the 90s, Leonie Sandercock and Jonathan France, and Dana Moraes of the film Edge of the Knife, and so many others. In 2004, I was very privileged to be invited to explore how to reinvent the Challenge for Change program at the National Film Board of Canada in the digital age. Our first Fogo was an inner-city hospital in Toronto. We called the project Filmmaker-in-Residence. We worked with doctors, nurses, patients, and health activists to see how medicine and media might co-create together to improve health outcomes, communities, and lives. My longtime collaborator, Christine Kleckner, is here today with us from that project. Jerry Fulhive, the producer, and I were asked to build out on Filmmaker-in-Residence. And out of that came Highrise, a 7-year project that was community-based, cross-disciplinary, and used emerging technologies. Many films, digital docs, events spilled out from that program. And, importantly, contributed to urban planning conversations in our city, our province, and around the world. Today with us from that journey, we have Paramita Nath, Brett Story, Anita Lee, Cass Gardner, and our symposium guide, Jay Pedro.
Desde mi ventana, por la mañana me gusta pararme y ver el mar. También me gusta, según como esté el día, ver el mar llegando hasta la orilla.
Highrise equated cities with the web and asked how we might become citizens rather than consumers of them both.
Have you ever wondered how you would monitor your mother, your member of parliament, your local drug lord?
During Highrise, Sarah and William invited me to become a visiting artist at the MIT Open Documentary Lab to incubate the final project in Highrise called Universe Within.
Some of my friends feel like a whole big family.
Our conversations about the connections between technology and co-creative methodologies have never stopped. Kathy M. and Lauren Pabst of MacArthur first believed in the idea of a co-creation studio and seeded us. Cara Mertes of Just Film's Ford Foundation had the incredible idea to research and write a field study and has supported us along with this symposium. In the last year, we've interviewed over 100 people for the field study, which we'll release later this fall. We've worked with and continue learning from our allies who are here with us, Detroit Narrative Agency, Sundance School, Stories of Change, Kamal Sinclair, the New Frontier Story Lab, Jessica Clark, the Racial Terror Project Team, Sheila Letty, Asia Bundawi, Sam Ford, all those at Ryerson, and the whole Open Documentary Lab team. Broadly, we see co-creation in 3 ways, and they all intersect: community within community, across and beyond disciplines, and non-human systems, such as cells, slime mold, social insects, and artificial intelligence. And we're really interested to see how all of these can inform one another. Today, we're gathered to share and learn, develop recommendations with you. At Gobustan, we're reminded of deep time, the fragility and the power of humanity's mark left in the stone. The Roman soldier carved his solitary words, "I was here," which just seems so lonely compared to the many hands and voices that rise together over the millennia, declaring collectively, we are here. Thank you.